this. What did you do now? Okay. All right. Good evening and Tzom Gedalia, Tafshin Pei Aleph. I hope that everybody had a wonderful Rosh Hashanah, easy fast, and we are ready to put on our walking boots and get into Rosh Hashanah. It's a great time. This week is, this, between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, the 7 days. It corresponds to all the days of the week. It says, the Mishnah Berurah brings it down that every day that you do tshuva, that's if today was a Monday, so you do tshuva today. You try to do tshuva today. You're looking to do tshuva today. The one of the tremendous benefits. Now, it's something that we need to pay attention to the fact that how many favors Rabbeinu has done to us and is doing to us. Basically, the fact that we are searching, trying to find ways and means how to do tshuva. Because many times, the thing is that Rabbeinu says in Torah Aleph, and this entire Sipurey Maasios is also predicated on the fact that the most elusive and ill-defined and fragile aspect of a human being is his das, his point of view, the way that he perceives the world. It is so easily tainted with self-interest of any kind. Tithers, ego, this, that, whatever it is, these are all bribes. And the thing is that, we have a rather narrow tunnel vision, which we see reality. Anybody that it's too much this side, he's too much. He's a fanatic. He's, it's like, and anybody that is too much this side, he's not enough. He's a kal. He's a lightweight. But the way that I am, that's exactly how you're supposed to be. Not that I'm saying that I'm the way I'm supposed to be. Of course not. I got a lot of the tshuva on, blah, 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 blah. However the song goes, whatever the proper, politically correct self-effacement goes. Rabbeinu says, false modesty is the greatest form of pride. But the thing is, as we spoke before, a person can be so much in darkness that he doesn't even see that he's in darkness. It looks perfectly light, everything's okay. I understand what you're talking about. But then he used a very very, very sharp motion to that. He said to us, stop being poor. Stop being impoverished. He says, go back to your treasures. And he says that we resemble people who live in the sewers, the underground, maybe of Paris, in the time of the Miserables, I don't know. It says that feed themselves of whatever it is that floats out on the, on the sewage. And every once in a while, somebody finds a piece of meat and says, hey, look what I got. Yeah, it's pretty harsh. It says, but here we are, three perfectly, not perfectly normal, but as normal as we can expect somebody in our day and age to be, average people. Baruch Hashem, some smarter, some more bright, some whatever. But basically, we're just regular Joes. Of course, we have our own. Let me just, you're right. Let me just, I need to, it's something that I did not do. Hold on. Let me just. So, basically, we're just regular people. But when you put the instrument on us, we are the behemoths, we are the chayes. He says, and they went. And they went along their way. And they wanted to find some kind of an animal or behemoth, and Nasis is a kli to test the instrument if it can play. But he still didn't see any animal. Here we're talking about us. We're talking about doing tshuva. And we are like thinking, what should I do tshuva on? I don't recall anything, outrageous that I've done lately. I mean, I didn't poison any old ladies or, I don't know, just, what do you do tshuva on? This is associated with tshuva. Yeah, there are all kinds of people that I need to apologize to. But it's embarrassing because I can't really make good what it is that I need to do. So I have no idea what to do. Okay, so let's put those aside. Hopefully they'll just forgive me or whatever it is. I'll go on from there. But what do I do tshuva about? Means we don't even see the animal or the beast. We don't see it yet. Everything looks fine. This entire story is about acquiring what Rabbeinu says in Torah base, Midas HaMishpat. And he says that Midas HaMishpat is the eyes. He says, because the eyes are the things that tell the judge where the truth is. We're talking about the eyes of the seichel, the eyes of the intellect. So you can see the situation for what it is. But if you are bribed by anything, you lose your objectivity. Losing objectivity doesn't mean that you have to force yourself to overcome your subjectivity and resume your objectivity and therefore judge properly. You can't do it. You don't see it anymore. It says, and a bribe will blind the eyes of the wise. Means it's not that it gives them an impetus to judge justly. It means they can't see justly anymore. So here we are, Baruch Hashem, Breslev Chassidim, and Asesi Metshuva. And what are we talking about? We're talking about how do we do tshuva. This is not a small thing. This is not a small thing to be searching for what it is that I need to do tshuva about. It's only v'achar kach ba'u Yisrael Yishu when they came closer to civilization. They finally found a behemoth, a beast. It started singing, which means that when we are starting to look for it, this is what we spoke the last time. When you're starting to long to find what can I do tshuva on? How do I get closer to Kodesh Baruch Hu? What don't I see? That it brings you to a stature of a civilized human being. You become an Adam. And you see the behemoth. You see what it is that is wrong with you. And you put the instrument on it, and it starts singing. That means that it's still a behemoth. I'm still a beast. But I'm a beast with the instrument on it. I'm a beast with Rabbeinu on it. So I start to sing. And the important thing is that in this world that is predicated on success, we live in reality that is predicated on longing. This friend of mine that went to Uman, that I told you about, he wrote an article in one of the papers about going to Uman. He said about this Indian, he says, Uman, and obviously Rabbeinu is not Hollywood. He says, we're not looking for a happy end. We're looking for a happy, regardless of what the end is. Uman is work. Uman is hard work. That's what it is. It's not a goal, it's a journey. And you see, the minute that the behemoth started playing, they were going until they came to this Medina. They came to this state. And as we said, this particular state, the Oysa Medina, that particular state had a wall around it, as we spoke last week. The only way to get into it is through one gate. This one gate corresponds to the main avodah in Rosh Hashanah, Seisim Tshuva, and Yom Kippur. The one gate through which you get into this Medina is the gate of Tmimus and Pshitus. Simplicity, and honesty, and lack of sophistication. You just mean it. All you need to do is mean it. This is the shard, this is the gate that gets into this state. This is a state, literally a state of mind. This particular Medina is a state of mind. There's a stickle of a pun here, because Medina is state, but this is literally a state of mind. This is Olam Bina. We have matriculated from the world of beauty and harmony, realizing that everything around us is one incredible song. And the most beautiful melodies have highs and lows. They can be scary. They can be exciting. They can be sad. They can be dramatic. They can be light and playful. Ultimately, a great melody, a great symphony, needs to include all of them to be interesting. It is very common for one to just, I'm sorry, I didn't hear, you want to unmute? I can't hear you. Unmute yourself. I'm sorry, who did I lose? Hold on.
Rabbeinu talks about 10 melodies.
10 what?
Melodies.
Yeah. Absolutely. Okay, let's just we again. Okay, so let's just go back to the share mode. So we said that that particular Medina, that particular state, had the wall, and the only way to get through it is one gate. And we said that one gate, and it says that tzrichim lesabev kala parsos, and you need to actually go around. You have to walk around this Medina a few miles until you come to the gate to come into the Medina. It sounds like a contradiction. If that gate to get into the Medina is simplicity and honesty, you just have to mean it, really mean it. Why do you have to go around and around and around to get to it? That would be the most obvious, automatic, most natural thing for a person. Just to be honest, just to be open. But as we said before, we lost the ability to see who we really are. We can talk about it until the cows come home. But still, our automatic starting point of looking at anything, speaking about anything, and reviewing anything and perceiving anything and reacting is out of our story, out of our subjectivity. It takes a lot of doing. It takes a lot of doing, overcoming a lot of fears, overcoming a lot of inner resistance, and a lot of work until it actually, Rabbeinu says in Torah Kufid Best, the main way to go about it, as we said before, you find a behavior and you put the instrument on it. In other words, wherever it is that you are holding, any place where you're holding, it doesn't matter. He says a person should daven all his life, so he should be able to actually say the real truth to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Clean truth. He says, but the way to get there is always speak to the Kadosh Baruch Hu in the level of the truth where you're holding. And Rabbi says, he gives an example, like someone says, Hashem, please help me. And you say it about, with all the excitement and whatever it is, as you change socks. Yeah, I mean, basically, you want Kadosh Baruch Hu to show you, to help you, whatever it is. But you want Kadosh Baruch Hu to bring you closer to Him, and to the tshuva, and to learn Torah, and so forth and so on. But you're not fired up about it. You're still in the dark. He says, that's okay. If you call out the Kadosh Baruch Hu, if you put the instrument on the behemoth exactly where it is, it'll bring you one step closer. It will change you, because until you get to a point where you are so emistic that the truth shines from your words. Before you get there, your being truthful, your relative truthfulness, makes you into a window. Means that, A, you understand that you're not where it's at, which is not a small thing, as we said before. And B, it opens you up to hear it from somebody who's got it, whose words, the truth in his words shine. This Rabbeinu calls a window. He says the truth is either an eventov, a luminescent stone, or a window. This is what it says in Tevas Noach. We'll have in a few weeks, Parshas Noach. It says, "V'tzat asel teva," and the source of illumination you will make to the ark. So Rashi says, "Tzoyar," what does it mean? It says, "Yeshurun eventov." Some say it's a precious stone that illuminates. Yeshurun chol, and some say it's a window. Rabbeinu says that when a person is in the dark, the thing that everything depends on is the word, is the truth. So he says, when a person's a low madriga of truth, his words are at least a window. They make you open to hear the truth from somebody else, until you finally get to the point where the truth can emanate from you and shine to other people. Truth being told is that you're always in between. You're receiving the truth. You have a window to those who are above you, and you are a shining precious stone to those who receive from you. It's all the time something that keeps on changing all the time. It says, until they came to the Shah to get into Medina, and they went around until they came to the gates. Okay, so you would probably think, all right, now that they arrived at the gate, after I've stopped doing the thing that I do, and I stopped doing my shenanigans, and I expect to get a medal. And usually when a person gives up bad habits, expecting to get rewarded, he usually gets a 2x4 in the face. Because while I was going around having myself a good time, or at least hoping I'll have a good time, until it all exploded in my face, I lost the ability to cope with reality. So the minute I started to get serious, each one, serious, sober, clean, tshuva, whatever you want to call it. The V'am el Hashar, when you come to the gate, they did not want to let them in. We find the gate closed. And here is a zoom in, a very, very high resolution of that particular state. Since the king of that state has passed away. The king passed away, and his son was left. And the king left a tzava, a will. What did it say in the will? Until now, they used to call the Medina, that state, Osnarische Land in the Kluge Malchus, the silly country with the wise Malchus, the wise kingship. But since the king died, now they will call it the opposite. The Sklugeland und the Narische Malchus. The smart country with the silly government, the silly kingship. Also known as democracy. It's a very big thing. You know, my son is now with a couple of thousand of Breslov Hasidim in Belarus. You know, Belarus now is the bane of Europe, right? It's the last dictatorship, blah, 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 whatever it is. My son told me is that it's gorgeous over there. His life is beautiful. He says they walk in the street, everything is clean, you don't see a scrap of paper. He says nobody says a bad word to them. No anti-Semitic slurs, nothing. Everything is 100%. It's a dictatorship. This we hold to be bad. I remember when we first came to Uman in '89, it was still very much the Soviet Union. It was just the beginning of perestroika and glasnost and whatever it is that was going on. So they let us in. But it's only a couple of years later that things started going haywire. And everybody was, the mafias proliferated and, profiteers started amassing billions and so forth and so on. By that time, it was still the Soviet Union. I remember walking in the streets of Uman. I mean, we were in the Uman Hotel. So to walk to the other side of town, where the Tzion is, at 5 o'clock in the morning, there was an army of old women with reed sweeps that was patiently sweeping the dust off the street, 5 o'clock in the morning, every morning. In this corner, there was this monument to somebody, I don't know, whatever it is. Everything was clean. Everything was pristine. Everything was nobody said the word. Whatever it is, it's people say this is what you're supposed to do, this is what you do. No. Now it's democracy. Now, who is the one who calls the shots? It's the country. The government is stupid. this is a higher level of, of exchange. This entire story is predicated on another exchange and another exchange and another exchange. This is what Rabbeinu has called the halls of exchanges. And every time that you peel off one exchange, you're coming into another gate or for a deeper exchange. And here they come. Ultimately, now we're talking about that in the level of thinking. Until now, they didn't even know what was going on. It started out that this one thought he was a king, this one thought he was a slave. This one went chased the other one away, and he went away, and he started, thinking what he thought was having a good time because the world is unfair, and he started drinking and doing whatever it is, and then he decided, he started having a charata, and he started going back and went to work. Until now, it's just like various things that happened to them. And reality was trickling down into their imagination, into their cognition, bit by bit, little by little, this happened, and then that happened, then he had a behemoth, and then they ran to the forest, and he went after them, and he couldn't find him, decided to go ahead, then he went up to the tree, and then he met the other guy, then they met the man in the forest, and so, in other words, another thing happened. It's only when you take a zoom out, a helicopter view of reality, you're able to see what is actually going on. Now, when they're coming to this land, this is the portal where the Ben Melech is going to attain his greatness. The state of affairs that the head is no longer the head. The body is the one who's calling the shots. As Rabbeinu says in Torah Aleph, a person needs to look at the seichel of everything. And he says that, but the only way to get to the seichel of everything is through emunah, through what the Rebbe calls nun. And he says, and you have two of them. You have Malchus the Kedusha, and you have Malchus the Sitra Achra. The difference between them is the Malchus the Kedusha is looking for the Seichel, is looking for the Chochmah. The Malchus Sitra Achra is not even interested in wisdom. The only thing it's interested in is to fulfill its urges. That's it. So the Biur Likutim says about Torah Aleph that he asks, why does Rabbeinu mention, the Chochmah, the Kedusha, the Malchus, the Kedusha, but it does not mention the Malchus Sitra Achra. So he says, because there really is no such thing. I mean, the Chochmah and Sitra Achra, there's no Chochmah, there's no wisdom of Sitra Achra. There is sophistication there. There is knowledge there. There's know-how there. Yes, there is. But there's no wisdom. They're not interested in wisdom. In a state where the state is wise and the head is stupid, it comes to mean that the Chochmah, the head, the Malchus, is the lawyer of the urges of the body. It comes to explain why what you want, as vile as it might be, is really good and is really just. They're saying this is a state that has been switched. It used to be, the way it's supposed to be is the thing that led is the chokhmah. The thing that led is what's right. The heart, no, the heart is the heart. The heart wants whatever it wants. But now that chokhmah was lost. So it was switched all over again. Rabbeinu mentions this in Torah Chafei, the Likutei Moharan. He says, let's just read towards the end of this thing so we can talk a couple of minutes about this. He says, and now the land was switched. They're calling fakir, they're calling it the clever land with the silly malchus. And he says, and whoever it is going to take it upon himself, Sheyachzo, Muslim lives it. Sheyachzo Hashem lekadmusa, that will return the name to what it was before. In other words, that they will call the land at its first name. In other words, the silly state with a smart king, he will be a king. That's what the Tzavav the Melech said. That's what his will and testament said. Okay, that's why they don't let anybody to come into the Medina, except if he accepts upon himself to take this challenge. Mission impossible. Okay, that's why they didn't want to let him in at all. Well, you can undertake this to return the name of the land to the first. So of course, a person cannot. A person cannot put himself into such a thing. He cannot undertake such a thing. They couldn't get in. Then his slave incited him, let's go back home. But he didn't want to go back because the men of the forest told him, go to this state, and there you will come to your greatness. This is a very important nakuda in which Rabbeinu speaks about in Torah Chafei. He says that every person has an inner kedusha and an external kedusha. And all the people in the world are standing like skins, onion peels, skins of onion, one on top of the other. The external kedusha is the sanctity of your divrei chol, your speech, your business ethics, your shlom bayis, whatever it is, how you eat. This is the lower kedusha. The internal kedusha is the level of sanctity that dictates, that permeates your limit of Torah and your prayer. Now, when all the people of the world are one on top of the other, so Rabbeinu says that the external kedusha, in other words, the kedusha of the divrei chol, of the person who was on a higher madrega, is higher than the kedusha of the Torah, kedusha pnimis, the inner kedusha of a person who was holding in a lower madrega. So if we were to draw a diagram, as it were, so the person who's in the lower level, the kedusha of his divrei chol is a 5. Okay? And the kedusha of his Torah masim tovim is a 10. And the person who is above him, the kedusha of his divrei chol is 15. And the kedusha of his masim tovim and Torah and tefillah is 20. So while the person who was above you is a 15 and 20, I am 5 and 10. Rabbeinu says what happens is that whenever a person moves up a madrega, he pushes the person above him. He lifts him up. When you arrive to the realm of the 1520, when you come there, you're pushing the person who was there, you're lifting him up to a higher level of Kedusha. What happens is, when you come to that level, you basically come, like to this Medina, to a closed door. Meaning, Medina says, when you have matriculated your 510 state and you're ready to advance to the higher state, he says, you leave behind, that what happens is that the 10 that you had before is going up, your Kedusha Pnimis goes up, and becomes the external Kedusha around what used to be the external Kedusha of the person who was there before. In other words, as you come to this new state, you are an intermiddle level. You brought the 10 with you from before. You were 5 and 10, right? You're bringing the 10 with you. And that 10 now surrounds, becomes the chitzonius, becomes the lower level of the 15. That used to be the lower level of the guy who was there before. He was 1520. So now you have a state, a Medina, that's supposed to have, when it's proper and everything is clicking, it's supposed to have the lower Kedusha is 15 and the inner Kedusha is 20. Bam, everything works. Well, you just came. What you brought with you was the best you could, was the 10 of your Torah and your mitzvahs. Now you're going to a higher madrega. Now the 10 is the Kedusha of your eating, of your drinking, of your business. You were never on such a level before. But your inner Kedusha of your Torah and mitzvahs is 15, which is wonderful. But it's not enough for this state of being. This state of being needs a 15-20 tandem. And you're coming up to the table with a 10-15. And in between, you're more than 5 and 10, and you're less than 15-20. Rabbeinu explains that this is when the klipos on that level awaken. The klipos are always subdued with the exposure to Kedusha. Klipos are stupid. The lower madrega, in compared to the high madrega, the lower, the external Kedusha, when compared to the higher Kedusha, is stupid. Which means when you become 10-15, your Medina, that's what you brought with you, the 10, that was your Chochmah, that was your Tefillah, that was your Kedusha Pnimis. And what is now your Kedusha Pnimis, that's the garbage of the guy before. Garbage, Chas v'Chalila. That's the lower, that's the madrega of his divrei chol. That's why it's called the Medina, smart Medina with the silly malchus. And what you need to do, you need to bring the whole thing up again from 10-15, this temporary 10-15, in which all the klipas come. He says, this is not enough to scare us. This doesn't scare us. 15-20 scares us. 10-15, you can't do it. And the Rebbe says it's non-stop. This is when the king died, means that he moved up. He went away. You left the son, that's the Kedusha, the external Kedusha, that's the 15 that you left behind. He says the Medina will only, he says the Malchus will be taken by somebody who can bring up this Madrega to a 15-20. And the first thing that comes to your mind is, whoa, this is big on me. This is too big for me. You know, this is, how do I know if I can do it? I don't know if I can do it. And of course, the slave is the one who says, let's go home. You can't get yourself into this. Let's just go home. Forget about it. This is a pipe dream. You can't do this. But he doesn't want to go back. He says, this is what my greatness is. He still doesn't know what he's going to do. He still doesn't know which way he's going to go. But he basically hit a stone wall. But this is what we hit in every single madrega. Whatever it is that you have a good Rosh Hashanah, whatever it is that you have an Uman, you come back and suddenly you lose taste for davening. You lose taste for learning. You lose taste. All your excitement is going away. Why? Because the klipa, you came to a new level, and the klipot in the new level has risen and are erecting a wall between you and the 15-20 that is your goal. B'ezrat Hashem, we will stop here. And obviously next week, on Monday, is Yom Kippur. So we will not be learning. But the next time that B'ezrat Hashem we will meet will be on Thursday. We will learn the Likutei Moharan to the 20. And I want to thank each and every one of you for coming. All the multitudes and millions of you who came. And you should have bracha and atzlacha and aksir v'chsim teva and a git giben shtur to all